Welcome back. This week we are going to be debating some ethical questions with each other.
How
Hopefully
ethical are these questions?
They're not super ethical. Some of them are worse than others, but we'll work our way up.
Okay.
All right. First question. Why are humans so confident in beliefs that can't be proven?
Like, what do you mean?
Like,
the fact that there is a moon?
Or that the Earth is flat?
I feel like some things can be proven, but I think other things can't be proven, like
a god,
yeah,
or like a higher being.
yeah. But like, why? How are humans able to believe so strongly in it, even if there's no like real evidence in something?
I think it's just our brains. I mean, excuse me. Like we always are thinking.
Yeah.
Like, are you never not thinking, even when you're not talking? Like,
yeah.
First thing when you wake up, maybe, but like when you're in the shower, you're thinking.
Mm-hmm.
When you're going pee, you're thinking.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, there's so much just like going on with our sight, smells, and hearing that like we're always thinking of something. And maybe some worse than others, but I think we're just always thinking, and then we think about something, and then we keep thinking about something, and that's just our deep conscious. I would say it's just because we have a very deep conscience.
Conscience.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair.
That's kind of my thought.
Well, yeah. I guess with like a lot of humans, they based what they believe on tradition or what their family has believed and what they've been taught. And I think, I don't know. I feel like they just follow what they've been told and who they trust most.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's like when it comes to beliefs, there's also an aspect of just feeling to it. I think it goes beyond just thinking about something and believing something in your mind, but it's like, I think people have like intuitions about things, or if that makes sense.
Oh,
like,
100%.
You can just feel when something, like in certain situations, like you can feel if something is right or if something's wrong. You just know. But then I think when it comes to beliefs, like I think if we're the example of like if there's a God or not, I think that also comes down to, I think believing in something is almost like a coping mechanism for humans to like get through their days sometimes. And sometimes I think we need to believe in something.
I agree.
So that we can keep putting in work and doing things and making the most out of life, because none of us chose to be here.
It's like a sign of hope.
Yeah.
Like there's more to, because like what if there's no beliefs?
Right.
Like, if you didn't believe in anything, like
right, then people would just be living their lives miserably every day,
or without any like feeling at all. Like you're like a floating ghost.
You're just there.
Yeah. If you have a bad day, you would think tomorrow's a bad day because you don't believe that it would be better.
Yeah.
Or you just don't even, or you're just like indifferent. You're just, it's a day. Tomorrow will be a day. The next day will be a day.
That sounds miserable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like for like love life, for example. Some people believe in soulmates. Some people believe in love at first sight, or whatever it may be. But if beliefs didn't exist at all, you're just there. You're acquaintances.
Speaking of that, what are your guys' thoughts on like soulmates? Do you believe in this concept of a soulmate?
Oh yeah,
I do too. Yeah.
There's way more to us than just like sight and mind and everything, like the physical aspect. Like I personally believe that like for every person there is another person created to do life with.
I agree.
You know, and I think that's just natural. Like you find yourself drawn to other people. You know, and then you'd find yourself attracted to someone, and then you're like, wow, I really enjoy being around this person. And I do think that there's one person for every person that's meant to like find each other.
Yeah.
I think for me, I believe that we all have many soulmates, and I think that soulmates can be applied to friendships as well. I find it hard to believe that in a world full of like 8 billion people, only one person in the world is like meant for you. I think that many people can be meant for you. And it's just, I think, kind of random depending on like where you are in your life, like the timing, the place. of which one you'll find. But I think that there are just many. And I think personally, like, I feel like there are so many friends that I've had where I'm like, we are like soulmates, and not in a romantic way at all, but like we are meant to be friends with each other. And I don't feel that way about every friend, but I do feel that way about certain people.
Yeah. I guess it kind of goes into like fate.
That's what I was going to say.
It's like, my thought is like, fate is like, what are the chances that all three of us signed up to be interns at the same place at the same time?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, realistically, I think about this all the time. It's like, I think about this with my girlfriend a lot. Is like, how many times did we cross paths without realizing we crossed paths?
Yeah.
Is like, because she lives out in Aurora, but like my family would always go out to malls and stuff like that around her family. What are the chances on a Black Friday we were at the mall at the same time, and like we walked next to each other in the mall but didn't know it?
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, even you guys, right? We all went to a Jeffco school district, or a Jeffco school in the same district. It's like, probably before we met, honestly, we probably were very close in like proximity to each other multiple times, because it's like, you guys live 25 minutes away from my dad's house, who lives 20 miles away.
Right.
You live closer with my mom, you know, so it's like just the whole idea of like fate. Everyone's like story is intertwined.
Yeah. I think fate is kind of an interesting concept too, because I think when I look at our friendship, if we didn't all do outdoor lab, I can't say for certain that I really believe that we would all meet each other. But I feel like in any lifetime that we do meet each other, we are going to be friends. Like, I think that's what I believe with fate, at least in that situation.
Do you guys believe in reincarnation? Like, before this, I was a giraffe and you were a lion that hunted me.
I don't know. I feel like for me personally, it's not something I actively think about and believe in, but the concept of it makes sense to me. I believe that I'm not a religious person personally, but I do believe that we have like souls of some sort. And I think that like energy is not created or destroyed. And I believe that like we are not created or destroyed. And I think that when we die, I don't know for certain what happens, but it would make sense that eventually our souls are out there and then they go into some other like life force of some sort.
Yeah, I agree. I think like I saw this cool thing, and it's like everything on Earth at some point was just a cloud of dust. But then it gets me thinking like, well, when you think of like conception, is like that one cell, like the one egg cell and the one sperm cell, at some point down to a molecular level were a cloud, and then they merged, and then the cell was made, and then it's just started like multiplying, you know, and is like all of those like. And that's just kind of like the crazy thing about like life overall, is just like every skin cell on my body was probably at some point like one skin cell that just like multiplied.
Right.
And it's like, well, where did all that stuff come from? Like, where did the carbon come from in my skin cells?
Yeah.
You know, was it just like floating out in the air? Or was it like over time, it just happened to all be in one spot and then multiplied? And then those multiplied and then those multiplied. You know what I mean? Yeah, I think there's like there's a fate for sure.
Back to what you were saying with reincarnation, though, I think it's a possibility. I mean, we obviously don't know, and it's something we will never know until we die. So I think, I mean, there is a possibility that there's a heaven and hell. There is also a possibility that nothing happens after we die. But yeah, it's just something that we will never find out until we die.
There's some creepy stories about like kids who were like, you know, like kids that were like, no, I was another person before this. I was Private William Jenkins in the something army, and like a 6-year-old saying like, if you look up in the history books, I was killed from a gunshot wound like 2 miles from here. You know what I mean? Like, and then people
flew
like
this plane AG 4324.
Yes, and then like people will research it and it's true. And it's like, how does a 6-year-old who like barely can comprehend the idea of a conscious like understand how they lost their life when they weren't even like a cell at that point? You know what I mean? Like that thought is just like crazy.
Yeah. And I guess the idea of like people who believe in reincarnation is like you move on to a new life without remembering your past life. So it's like an anomaly when that happens.
Yeah. That'd be like, how do you deal with that as a parent?
Right.
You're just like, wait, you're like, huh? Like,
yeah.
What?
Like you have a 5-year-old kid who died when he was 42.
Yeah. That's
He's living
so
like
weird.
as a 42-year-old.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard some crazy, like, I've watched some YouTube videos that like go into some of those stories, and it's like, whoa, like, how does that happen?
Yeah.
What's the next question?
Is it possible that someone's genes might affect their political leanings? If no, why not? If so, what would be the ramification?
Oh gosh, I have no idea.
I don't think so.
Like their like their DNA genes, is that what you? Yeah. I don't think
so either. I think it's more so the social implications of your genes. Like, I think like the color of your skin, for example, could affect what you believe, but not because of the color of your skin, but because of how that has affected you in your life.
Yeah, and that goes back to what I was saying earlier about believing in the people you trust. And most of the time when you're a kid, the people you trust are family.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think I'm never gonna forget this. Me and my dad, we were up at the house and we were driving to the store, and it was like a blizzard outside, and the elk around had just like given birth, and like we saw a baby elk, and when we're saying baby, like its back was still like wet with amniotic fluid, and like we drove down, and the first thing we saw this baby, we saw the mom run the other direction, and we saw the baby just like lay down. Like, how does it instinctually know to like lay down, you know? But then like to complicate it to us, I think it goes to the idea of free will. To like back to the question is like, I don't think DNA has anything to do with it. I think you can believe what you want to believe to the extent in which you believe it, and it's all up to you and how you perceive it. And that's the cool thing is like your brain and how you perceive something is different from PUURICH. You know what I mean? And it's like just the idea of free will.
I do think though also your genes can affect your personality and what traits you possess, and I think having certain traits can impact what you would believe politically or with other sort of debates, because like some people, I think your genetics could affect if you're maybe more likely to be open-minded versus closed-minded. And I think if you're open-minded, that's going to really affect what your beliefs are about a certain topic.
That kind of goes back to your parents, though, is like your beliefs, you see something.
But I don't think directly, like your genes determine like, oh, they are going to be a Republican, they are going to be a Democrat or whatever.
Yeah.
In some cases, genes do determine if, like, I was just thinking about, like, criminal families.
Yes.
And how it is genetic that they are, like, psychotic or whatever.
Yeah.
Or, like, addiction.
Yes.
Yeah. I think there is a lot wrapped up in your genes, and I think it's just like how you were raised. Like, both of your parents, their first language was not English, right? So they don't think in English.
Yeah.
And like that to me is like such a weird idea that like do you when you think in your head, are you thinking in Thai or English?
I'm thinking in English, but when I was like really young, I used to because Thai was my first language, so I used to only think and only dream in Thai.
Like that is so crazy to me.
Yeah.
Like all of like if you think of words, your parents still think in whatever language probably that they have been most accustomed to, but like for lack of better terms, like you've almost grown out of that since you've learned English, and so now you think in English, but like your parents don't.
Yes.
Which to me is just like, it hurts my head to think about it, but it's because of how they were raised.
Yes.
They were raised by parents who only realistically probably spoke one language, because English really started to become popular probably around your grandparents' age.
Yeah.
I think it's also just the amount of time that they spent their lives just speaking Thai versus how long. Because for most of your life, you didn't have to like think and speak and write and read only in Thai.
Yes.
So
what do you think your siblings do?
I know my brother thinks in English, and he has since he was able to talk.
Yeah,
because he used to speak Thai like a little bit, and then he grew out of it quick. But my sister, I would say, out of the three of us, speaks Thai the most and the most fluently. So because she like watches like Thai YouTubers or whatever, and she's still like involved with Thai speakers like way more often than I am. But yeah, I mean, I haven't lost language yet. I've lost some of it.
I don't think you ever will, just with your parents.
I don't think so either.
Definitely not all of it.
Yeah.
But it seems like for you, it's something that you can always like immerse yourself back into it and practice it more. So does your brother not really like know a lot?
He understands everything almost.
Okay.
But he just doesn't speak.
Okay. Can he like read and write?
No. Neither can I though.
Okay.
Never learned.
Can your sister? Which, I mean, that's just how you guys were raised in a 100% English school district. So you're taught to read and write in English, not Thai. Whenever, do you think, well, I guess not even do you think, but like, is there sometimes where you'll like go visit your family like in Japan or Thailand and they'll like say something to you and you know what they're saying, but you like struggle to find like a word in your head like to respond?
Absolutely.
And it takes you a second. And you're like, what's the word in Thai that I'm trying to think of?
I do it here all the time. And like when I'm talking to my parents, it's so easy for me to respond in English and Thai. So I mix languages all the time. I
see you do it all the time. Whenever your parents call you, you totally like, in a sentence, there was totally sentences where it's like every few words is in English, and then you switch back. And it's just, it's so funny to listen to because like you and your family are like so back and forth. And all of you do that to a certain degree. And I think that's so funny.
I think language is like a really cool concept.
Yes.
They're just sounds. And we put like meaning and understanding to each sound in different languages.
Like, and it's all made up.
Yeah.
Like, if you think, if like whatever the like first people is, right? Whatever that means is like, we'll just say it's a caveman, right? Like, how does caveman Austin and caveman PUURICH communicate?
Right.
Like, we see each other just now realizing that, oh my gosh, there's something else that is like, that's right in front of me that they probably know they look like each other, but it's like, how do they communicate? Do they like point?
Yeah.
And then it's like, no, then eventually they'll make a sound. It's like, hey.
Yeah.
And that means tomato. And it's just like, what? Like, what?
But then you also think about people who are deaf or people who are blind and how we've developed a language that you can feel and a language that you can sign. That is so beautiful.
And here, too, with like, what's it called? Like Morse code.
Yeah.
It's just like, you can hear a language. And I mean, technically it's like you translate it to something else. Sure. Like, just beep, 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 beep. Like that means something. You're just like, like, whoa.
Speaking of like unethical stuff, I was, like, I would want to put two newborns in a cage together and let them live 25 years and see what happens.
Have you seen that? Like, it's like the sibling things. Like, I know what you're talking about.
Just to see the whole language thing. If they were never taught languages, would they come up with one? Would they 100%? How would they communicate with each other?
They would 100%.
How would they live?
I mean, if they were in this cage, you say, like, would they even be exposed to other people? Like, would they ever hear other people around? No.
I just want to see what
part of me believes that they wouldn't do anything auditory. Actually, part of me thinks that they would maybe like do something more like sign language almost. Just because if they're babies and they don't know how to talk, like people learn to talk because they hear other people talk.
Right.
But there was this really sad case story about a child who was like completely neglected and always locked in this room, and they didn't have social interaction, so they could not speak. And then they reached this age, past this developmental stage, where they were like rescued, and they could not physically make a sound like that. Their brains never learned it because they were locked up. So I think that like with two babies, I think a similar thing would happen. They don't know how that part of their brain would never really like think to like try to talk because they've never heard that happen.
Yeah. Which that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like when, like, say there's like a baby like just learning how to speak, and then there's like a slightly older sibling, and the baby will just be like,
yeah,
and the older sibling will be like, they want a grilled cheese for dinner, and it's like, how do you know what that baby is saying?
Telepathy.
Yeah,
I think that. Yeah,
I love watching those videos and like clips of that. Like a baby just,
especially when they like spend like a lot of time together, they just know each other like so well.
Oh my gosh, I saw this TikTok, and it was this, I don't know, he was maybe like 2 or 3, and he like was doing stuff with his hands, and he walked in and he was like, ah, and all the people were like, ah, and then he was trying to do a thumbs up, but like he brought his hand down and like really started like focus on his hands, and then he was like, and then he did the thumbs up, and the caption was like, bro's still learning the controls.
Yeah.
Like, that's so funny.
I feel like mimicry is so important for children.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is, and like back to your scenario, I feel like if they at least witnessed like people, if they were in this room, like if people just every now and then came by and they could just like hear them talking and then they left, like I could imagine them in that case trying to speak. And then maybe from there they could start to develop their own little language.
Okay.
But not with like complete isolation.
That makes sense.
I think if there's no noise, they probably wouldn't. Like you said, they probably wouldn't make any noise.
But then it's also like, it makes you wonder, because like babies do cry and scream, and they can make sounds. So I wonder if they try to like, if they try to like scream at each other, like, ah!
I just wonder if it's like an evolutionary thing, like for babies to start talking, or if it's solely based on what their surroundings are.
I don't know. I really do feel like, I don't think it's just like an evolutionary thing.
I could see that.
But I just think like the situation you brought up is such a bizarre, like out there.
They should try it.
No.
That's what I'm saying.
That'd be
it's
so
like
unethical.
It's like super unethical, but it's something I'm super curious about.
I mean, I'm sure there's been a similar situation with like animals held in captivity.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen the Truman Show?
Yes.
Yeah, it's like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like one person was raised, you know, to believe that there's a whole society, and like that's all there is.
Right.
Is that.
They should conduct a Truman Show like in real life.
They probably have. They just haven't broadcasted it on television. True.
I haven't seen that. Is it just like an experiment type show?
Yeah. So Jim Carrey is the like main character, and he was born and raised and has lived his whole life, and like he's an adult.
So it's a fictional
most of the movie. Yeah.
Oh.
Yes.
And it's like he was raised in it's basically like a giant bubble. And like everyone in there is an actor except for him.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I think I've heard of this.
Yeah, it's really trippy because then like people would like break in and try to be like, everything you know is fake, like this isn't real, blah blah blah, all of that. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I think you learn, but if there's nothing to learn, then you don't learn.
That is true.
You know?
Yeah. All right, I have another question. How would you define genius?
I think there are a lot of ways to define genius. I think there are geniuses in like many forms.
I agree.
Whether if it's like an artist genius or like a painter genius or a math genius, a musical genius. I think there are geniuses in every category.
It kind of seems like being a genius is about being like different almost. Like you think in a way that nobody else does. You know something that nobody else does. And whether it's something that's like really impactful or not, it seems like it doesn't matter.
Yes.
As long as it's just unique.
Yes, but I think it has to be unique in a way where people are unable to replicate it.
Yeah.
Because if it's unique in a way where people are able to replicate it, then you're not a genius. If that makes any sense. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
I think being to me, it's like, I think it very like binary is like somebody is so like, I guess you could say, like, knowledgeable, like somebody is so skilled at something that when someone comes in contact with them, they get the intuition that they know so much about it, you believe that they're a genius. So like, and that's like super, super broad, and I get that, but it's like, I would come in contact with PUURICH, and we would talk about it, or I would watch him do something, but I just get the intuition that he's so skilled and knowledged in whatever that category, that thing is, that my brain comprehends that as he knows so much about it, more than I do, to a level that nobody can compare to.
I agree.
I think it's like, I see what you're saying, but I think it's also like, someone could be a genius and come up with something that other people can then do, but they can't come up with those kind of ideas. Because like, for me, I think about music, and if I were to consider someone like a musical genius, it's because they're constantly looking at things that everyone uses, like certain instruments, and they always find a different way to use it than everyone else does. And then it's like, say you take a guitar and someone starts to use it in a really interesting way, and then other people can still do that, but no one else can think of a different way to use a guitar other than how it is used by everyone.
I do to like a certain extent think that geniuses in the world are like literally bred different.
Yes.
Like there is something in their genes that is different than everyone else.
Yeah, I agree. How common do you think geniuses are? Do you think that there are like way more than we realize, or do you think that there are fewer than we realize?
I think there's a lot more than people realize, but they don't know that they're a genius until they do that thing. Like when I think genius, like my first thought is like physicists, right? Like in the 100 years ago, right? Like in the beginning of like the 20th century, like when you look at science and like where it was back then, like the idea of like the atomic bomb was not even like a thought. And then like World War I and World War II happened. So then everyone thought, okay, maybe if I can make something that unfortunately is going to take a lot of lives, but like explode, because like the idea of a bomb was there, but like the atomic bomb was forged in a way to where it's like those people who made it were considered geniuses. But now when you look at it, if you compare it to today, now we don't even use atomic, we use nuclear. So it's like, I think there are so many more geniuses than we realize. They just don't know what they're going to be a genius with. Just because like, even with math, like there's such a high level of math that now so many people can achieve that was like thought unthinkable, Like maybe only one person at one point in time could understand the concept of multiplication. Now it is a silly, tiny, minuscule part of like what even we know.
Right.
So like
but then you also see like 6-year-olds who are doing 6-figure multiplication
in their
heads.
Yeah.
And that's what I would consider a genius. There's something there that everyone else doesn't have. Yeah.
It's just like, it's like uncomparable.
Right.
Like you're so good at something, it's uncomparable.
Yeah.
And you could break that down to like football. You could break that down to music. You could break that down to like a science or a math. You could break that down to an art,
Yeah.
I feel like that also raises the question if like, obviously the majority of people are not what we are describing as a genius.
Sure.
But there is still like somewhat of an abundance of geniuses. And so it's like, if there are multiple geniuses, does that make it less impactful? Like what they're able to do you think? Or like less impressive, I guess?
I don't think so. Because I think it, like based on the percentage of people who are able to do a certain thing, I'd say it's less than 1% by far.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just feel like those, like regardless of how many, I'm assuming there will be more and more since the population keeps growing. But the percentage compared to the general population is still going to be a minuscule number.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
All right.
True.
I haven't. This one's interesting. Why do we resist doing things that we know are good for our well-being while craving things that are detrimental to our well-being?
Because we have free will. I know that I need this, but I want this.
Yeah.
You know? Like, you know what? I need, like in high school, you know, like, you need somebody who will challenge you enough to push you to grow as a person. But no, I want the star football player who's jacked, that has a six-pack abs that every girl wants. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, you know what you need. You may or may not know what you need, but you know what you want. And those two things might be the same, but they very frequently could also be different.
But I think it's like, but like, why? Like, why? Even if you can recognize what you need versus what you want, like, why? When you are faced with something that you know you want, you don't need it, but you want it, but you still go for it anyway. Like, why do you do that when you know it's not what you need?
I think it comes down to whether it's like a laziness level or like on a chemical level in your brain. It's the amount of dopamine you get from the bad shit.
Yep.
And the amount of work that you have to do for like the good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like to eat healthy. It's fucking hard to eat healthy.
Yeah.
And you have to force yourself to do it.
Yes.
Same thing with working out every day. It's hard to get off your ass and go on a run every single day because you have to work hard for it. I could sit there and play video games all day long because it's easy and it makes my brain happy.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes my body not happy. I don't know.
What about in situations kind of like what you're saying? Like, what if you were faced with, like, you're in high school and you can date the most popular guy and he's super hot and everyone wants to date him, but he's not very nice to you. Or you could date someone who's not cool, but they'd be really nice to you. Like, why? Knowing that, like, why do people still go for the hot guy?
Because it's how they look versus how they act. I feel like there's a certain level in like age and maturity to where you realize that there's more to a person than just what you see.
But I think that people, even beyond high school, and high school is like a difficult period, but like I think a lot of grown adults still fall into scenarios like that. And it's like, if we're talking about dopamine and stuff, like, for the most part, you're not happy when you're with this person, but you still pick them over this other person.
But it makes you happy reacting, or other people reacting to see.
Yes.
That
but
you're
it's
with
also
them.
like,
yes.
if it doesn't make you like emotionally happy, it still makes you like your dopamine shoot up to see them.
It brings
but it's also
being
like,
jealous
think
of
about
you.
how much time you spend with them and like all the time you spend alone with them. It's like, if the only time that it's good is this brief moment when other people are like, oh wow, your boyfriend is so hot, like, but besides that, it's all like how is that worth it to you, that like short moment of social validation?
Because some people get more dopamine from tangible things, and some people get more dopamine from non-tangible
It's like
things.
the people who buy a Louis Vuitton bag versus going to dinner with their friends or going camping with their friends.
Yes.
It's, I guess different people are wired differently.
People want the bag instead of a nice dinner and have a friend buy it for them.
All right.
That's kind of like love languages too.
It's kind of like the thing where it's like, would you rather be rich and miserable or poor and happy?
Poor and happy, yeah.
All right, next question. Why do humans have such a strong urge to distract ourselves from the real world?
Because the real world's ass. real world can suck.
Yeah.
Way more than I think it benefits people, but people don't. You don't get a lot of dopamine when shit gets hard and when you get challenged. And that's why people shy away from it, is because people don't like that.
Yes.
I think it also comes down to control as well. And I think humans have this tendency. Sure. They want to rationalize everything. And the world doesn't make sense. So many things that happen don't make sense. And I think it feels better when you can just like have a concrete answer to something. Like, you can know why, but we never know why. And so I think it's just so much easier to tune it out and just like live in this a world in your head where everything works out the way you want it to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no like, if there's no obstacle in front of you, then when there is an obstacle in front of you, then you get like, you almost get lost because you don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that thought of like not knowing what to do, I think scares a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Right.
You could not wake up tomorrow. You could have a heart attack tonight, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But you never know. Like if you look at LeBron James' son had a heart attack while working out for a college basketball thing. Is like, his body genetically, if you look at his body genetically, he comes from an absolute specimen of a human being when it comes to like athletic ability and like what your body can handle. Makes no sense why a 19-year-old kid went into cardiac arrest during you know what I mean? Yeah.
And when you take athletes, I think there's back to the genius thing. I think there's like a level of like how they understand their game.
Yeah.
But there's also a level of physical genius.
Yes.
They are doing things like same with like Olympians. They are doing things that 99.9% of the population cannot do.
Mm-hmm. Like track runners. Like if you look at like the 100-meter dash, there are 9 people in the final race.
Yeah.
Out of 8 billion people, that you are the fastest person on the planet.
Yeah.
You know?
And it kind of makes
like
you
it's
think
uncomparable.
Like I'm assuming there are people out there in the world that could compete with them and they haven't tried it or they don't know.
Yeah, they don't know that they can, that they don't know that they're good at that. Because they haven't worked to try it.
Yeah.
Whoa. Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like Giannis Antetokounmpo is like he loved basketball, but like he wanted to be an NBA star, but like he had to realize that he liked it, but he also had to put the work in to realize that he could be very, very good if he kept working at it, so he can hit that caliber of athlete and basketball player. Whoa. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa.
All right. If there existed a perfect clone of you, would it also be you? Would it act in the exact same manner as you, like a mirror, or would it act differently? If it acted differently, then would it still be you? At what point would it not be you?
I mean, if there's a perfect clone of me, I almost guarantee you they would do the exact same things that I would do.
Mm-hmm.
They would say things how I say them. They would say the same things, use the same words and everything.
But is it you?
Yeah.
When I think of clone, I think of like a robot almost.
Same.
And I don't think that they are me. I mean, I guess if it was a perfect clone, then it would be me. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like it's you scientifically, but it's not you. I think that I'm gonna literally reference Adventure Time here, but you guys have both seen it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know how they introduce Fern? Like Fern is supposed to be like an exact clone of Finn, but it's also the fact that like nobody views him as Finn.
Right.
And then it's like he goes into this crisis because he no longer knows who he is. He's just like his entire identity is dependent on his like genetic makeup and what is already there. But it's like realistically, like when he starts to realize that and think about that, like he's a different person. And I think that is honestly pretty close to how it would be in real life. Like I think that especially if you had a clone and your friends, obviously if your friends didn't know that it's a clone, they're going to treat you like you and they'll probably respond like you and they won't notice that it's a clone. But I do think that if you told your friends and your family, like this is a clone of me, and they were able to now identify like this is the clone, this is you, they aren't going to treat you like you probably because they know it's not you. And I don't know. I don't think that it would be me. Like it's me, but it's not me.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think like a man-made human would have flaws in the way they look at like social things. Whether if it's like talking in a group with friends or social like ethical, unethical things. They would not make the right decisions. Yeah. And I think that's how you would tell the difference between me and my clone.
Yeah. I think it also depends too on, like, say they were to make a clone of one of us right now, like, do they have all of your memories from your whole life, or does it like start from there? Like, they have your exact personality and stuff, but like they don't know what it was like to like grow up like with your family and have all your friends and stuff. They're just like a clean slate, and now they will proceed to make memories. But
they have to learn life from where you are now.
And I think with like, without all of these experiences that you would have had up to this point, it's like they're already different than you. Yeah. Because they didn't go through this. So
I think if it's a perfect clone, I would assume that they don't think it's literally going to be me just in a different body.
That's fair though. If it was like a literal perfect clone.
Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, when you think of identical twins, when you like to the DNA in their bodies, they are the exact same, but they're raised different. But if it's something that is me just multiplied by 2, I feel like it would be. But I see what you're saying with like there's complications to it though.
Think about though, like say you found out all of a sudden, like another you walked in and you found out that you were the clone. It's like, and they were standing here and they were like, "You're me." Like, would you be able to be like, "Oh yeah, like I am you"? Like, I wouldn't feel that way. Like, I'd be like, "But I'm not you." Like, you look exactly like me and you sound like me and you act like me, but like I'm not you and you're not me. Like,
yeah, I see what you're saying.
Trippy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so. Yeah. Like, would you? I mean, my first question would be, who was created first?
Yes.
Well, if they come in and they're claiming you're the clone, then like they were first.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Then then at that point, in my mind is like, well, then I am a clone. But like, say they took 2 egg cells that were the exact same and 2 sperm cells that were the exact same and conceived them at the exact same time, and you were just split up when you were born, right? Mm-hmm. Now that would be interesting. But then that kind of goes back to like, you can't. That's. Yeah, you're technically a clone, but like at the same time, what they would need to do is they'd need to like take you and copy you. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, then it's not a clone. You know what I mean?
If we were able to make like complete clones of ourselves, like, do you think that's ethical? Not even just like of yourself, but like you could make it of someone else, or like if like if someone died, then you can just clone them. Like, do you think that's ethical? Because I feel like personally, just the thought of like finding out that I'm a clone, like I would really hate that. That would cause a lot of like inner turmoil for me, and not realistically, not much would change, but it would really mess with me, and I would feel, especially if both are existing at the time, like at the same time, the clone and the person. Like I feel like I'd always have to like be a model of this person that's already been there or something. Like,
okay, you go to work.
That's what I was thinking.
Well, what if they were like, no, you go to work and I'll play video games?
Well, have you guys seen What Happened to Monday? So it's on Netflix, and it's about like a futuristic world where, it's a futuristic world where the people only could have 1 kid, but there was a woman who had 7 kids who had septuplets, and so each of them go out on the day that is their name. So there's Monday through Sunday, right? But they're only allowed to go out on their day. But they have like a rotation, and every night they talk about every aspect of their day. So they have like a contact that records everything, and they basically go quickly and just watch everything that happened. So like the big issue is like Monday just disappears, and so like Tuesday through Sunday are like literally like what happened to Monday, and so they're trying to figure out what happened to her. But then I won't spoil the movie, but like then it kind of goes into the like they're literally 7 of the same woman with all their own individual personalities, so they're all clones of each other basically, right? But when one thing gets like taken out of it, it throws everything off, and it's like, okay, we don't even know what happened on Monday. So like when Monday doesn't come home, Tuesday has to go out and like
not knowing
and doesn't know. So like if she interacts with someone, she may or may not have done that, or like if someone goes, hey, can you bring me this file that we talked about yesterday? It's like,
yeah.
So then it's like, then with my clone, I'd just be like, okay, this is what we're going to do. This week, you go to work, I play games, and then next week we swap.
Yeah.
And we'll break it down every single night.
Yeah.
And then just go from there.
What if like I had a clone, and then I feel like I would get jealous, like if we had some sort of rotation, then it's like I have to go to work, and then they like are hanging out with my friends all of a sudden, and then what if they like get really they like it, and they're like, no, I want to always hang out with my, then they kill me. Like,
yeah. But then it's like, is that murder because you're killing yourself?
It's so
see, like a perfect clone would not be optimal. I think a robot that looks like me, but is built to do the shit that I don't.
I would love to build a robot so I could. If I just you just power them on, Would you imagine if like there's a technology where you take everything from the day, you upload it into a USB drive, you plug the USB drive into the robot, turn them on for the next day. Yeah, sorry, I don't want to go to work today.
Right.
And they go, okay. And then their voice comes back to normal as they power on, and then they just go and do your thing.
Yeah.
But then it's like, well, are they controlled by AI? Because then it's like, sussy.
That is true.
The world is going to explode if that happens.
Yeah, 100%.
Because it's like
100%.
Because then it's going to be taken too far. Because then it's like, well, is the president like really the president? Or like, where's the real president?
Mm-hmm.
Like, where's Vladimir Putin right now? Or is that just like a guy and he's just playing Call of Duty right now? I don't know though.
Weird. All right. Moving on. I think this is a good question. Are people ethically obligated to improve themselves?
No, you have free will. You can do whatever you want, whenever you want, for how long. I think it's just like when you have free will and you can do whatever you want to do. If you can do whatever you want to do, then you have to be okay with living with the consequences. If you're not living with the consequences, right, you still have your own free will. And you have to live with the consequences regardless, or the benefits.
Yes.
I think it's just totally up to whatever you want to do.
It's not like an obligation, but like it never will be an obligation.
Yeah.
You can see that in people today, and I'm not dogging on people in the world, but you can see like the lazy asses who don't have a job, who don't go to work, who are not looking to go to school, or whatever it may be. You can see them.
Yeah.
They're not obligated to, but they, like Austin said, you have to face the consequences of not bettering yourself.
I think the question is weird too, because like I also would not say that it's an obligation, and that people should be obligated, and like it's not like we're ever gonna have someone like, are you working on this and this? Like no one's gonna hold you responsible. But I do think, ethically speaking, I think it's ethical to improve yourself. Like I think that is like the morally right thing to do, but you're not like obligated to.
Yes.
But I do think that
For
people
sure.
should.
Yes.
But I'm not going to hold them to that.
Right.
But I think that people, like I just genuinely think that people who don't work to improve themselves, it's not necessarily that they're always bad people, but I think less of them as people. And I don't think that they're like, some of them are genuinely bad people, but some of them are just like, I'm just like, you're just not a quality person.
Mm-hmm.
And I just can't imagine being someone who just does not care to ever be better.
Right.
Like, that's so wild to me. And I don't know, it's like, do you think that they're, like, what is it do you think that they are lacking? Whether that's, like, in their mind or their personality-wise, or, like what is it, do you think, that makes people just not care?
They just do not have a grasp on reality, is my first thought. I just feel like those people that just genuinely do not care, do not conceptualize reality.
Yeah. I think it can also go into like a bit of empathy, but I also think it's like for some people, it seems like they haven't faced consequences yet, and that's why they're like that. Because I don't know, I feel like once you really face actual consequences, usually people are like, oh, like wait, like I kind of do have to like get my shit together. But
and sometimes it's too late for them to start getting their shit together
in their minds. Yeah. I really do believe like it is never too late to start, and you might not reach the outcome that you want if you start late.
I guess in the scenario that I was thinking of, like junkies, like drug addicts, like sometimes it is too late for them to better themselves.
Like if they die.
Yeah, if they overdose or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
True. Next question. What is your definition of evil?
I don't really have one. I mean, I feel like that's so subjective. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I see what you're saying, but like, I feel like that is just something it's so tough to answer, because it's like, it's so subjective. Like, yeah, you can argue that there is a morally good, a morally bad, where somebody's intuition will lead them one way or another, but like, it's so subjective and can be so minusculely different between people that, like, well, which is more evil?
Mm-hmm.
You know, then you just get into comparison. Mm-hmm. I'm just gonna keep going down the rabbit hole, you know.
Do you have anything you want?
I agree with what Austin was saying. I think there are a lot of things that can be defined as evil, but other people don't define as evil. My first thought, for whatever reason, was like serial killers, and it's like a lot of people, I would say most of the people in the world would define serial killers as evil, but it comes down to their chemical imbalances in their brain.
But would serial killers call serial killers evil?
I guess not.
Right, because I mean,
they're
some
also chemically imbalanced.
Some might, but like some wouldn't. They would say, no, that's a normal person. I've done the same thing.
Because I would argue that they're more psychotic than evil.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I used to be super into philosophy, and I took a couple of philosophy classes, and it was always a big debate. Just this topic of, is anybody like knowingly evil?
Mm-hmm.
And I think in whoever really started that debate historically, like I feel like their point was kind of that no one is knowingly evil.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I kind of, for the most part, agree with that. I think there's always exceptions, but kind of like what you're saying, it's like, I don't think that serial killers believe, like, I truly don't think they believe that what they're doing is wrong.
Yes.
And so or maybe they do, or maybe in that case they don't believe that doing something wrong like matters. I don't know.
Sure.
Like, whatever their logic is, it's like, it's hard. I don't know. Like you guys are saying, it's hard to define, but I don't think that, because I think that so many people do things that I would consider like an evil thing to do, and you think when someone does something like that, they must be evil, but it's like, I don't know. But then at the same time, it's like, I feel like I do things sometimes that I'm like, I should not have done that. That was not the right thing to do. Like, that was bad. But then in my mind, I think it gets justified, because I'm like, but I didn't, like, that was my intention, you know? And it's just like, I don't think I'm an evil person because I did that. And I don't think that anyone else is an evil person because they did something that was less than good. But it's a weird topic. But I don't think that anyone is just out here like, I just want to destroy everything.
I guess people do become evil when they're doing the bad things knowing that they're doing good things, or like immoral.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Yeah.
It's all about like intent,
right?
And self-awareness and stuff. I don't know. This kind of is similar, like a part 2 to this question, and this can be our last question, but if babies are considered innocent, when do people cease to be innocent?
I think it depends on the person. Some people never lose their innocence.
Nope.
I know some 23, 24-year-olds that are the most innocent people I've ever met.
Mm-hmm.
What would you like consider innocent, I guess, then? Like,
unwillingly knowing what is right, or like, no, it's not unwillingly. My first thought is like, when I think of innocent, I think of like the person cannot conceptualize and logically work through if something can be right or wrong. Like if a little baby, like if a 4-year-old just goes, shit, dad, like they don't conceptualize and like logically understand why that word to some people could be bad, but to some people could be good. Like that's my idea of innocence.
It sounds like you're kind of describing innocence as like being naive almost. Or like
that's what I
oblivious.
see.
Yes. Yeah.
and not necessarily in like a bad way, but just like in this pure way of like, I also think of just like people who just truly see the good in everything, and not because they're choosing to, but because they genuinely believe that everyone is good and everything is good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, oblivious is a tough word.
It's like it's a harsh term for
yeah.
Trying to say.
I see where you're going though. Is like it's not like, for me, oblivious is like they are choosing to not
to like ignore
it, right? But like, if you take it like you said the word pure, like pure obliviousness to me isn't quite innocent. Well, or like it's like, if you look at the purest form of oblivion, I feel like if you're just purely oblivious to everything, then you still are like choosing to not understand. Versus like, for me, like innocence is like you just cannot, like your mind at the time cannot like fully comprehend. And like logisticize, if that's even a word. Like what in that situation could be better or worse. And like, you might not even have that scale. Like, you can't even put a scale. You can't even put your thumb or check the box on what is right or wrong, because there's not even anything to check. There's not anything to see, because you just can't comprehend it. That's my idea of innocence.
Part of me almost feels like being innocent forever is not necessarily a good thing. And I don't think that it's a bad thing, but I don't know if it's like the best thing to be in this world.
Yes.
But I agree with you. I do think that some people never lose that. And I think it's very like situational. It completely depends on the environment that you have grown up in. But I feel like if we're going to talk about that, I think that people like lose their innocence when something really bad and life-changing happens. When they seen some shit. Like, that's the first time that it happens, everything is different after that.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you.
And I think that's why you were saying that it's not necessarily a great thing that they haven't lost their innocence, is because they haven't been exposed like to the terrible shit.
I think it's not a realistic or practical way to think and live and exist. And I think being in that, it's almost like how we were talking about in another podcast about how like it would be nice to be like stupid and happy.
Yes.
And that's kind of how I like view it almost.
Yes,
not that
me
they're
too.
stupid, of course, but like I do think it is kind of like oblivious. Like you just don't get it. And I don't know if you've ever been around those people who like you would still consider pretty like innocent. Like I feel like they're really hard to be around, at least for me. And from an outside, sometimes it looks really nice to be that way. Like I would love to just be like, oh, like in this like nice pure world where everything is great, but it's not like that. At least it hasn't been like that for me, and it hasn't been that way for most people that I know. So it's just
we're living in a tough world, but you gotta work with what you got.
True, man. It's really hitting the heart there.
I think it's good to remain like optimistic and believe 100%. In good and believe that there can be good in everyone. But not but not to sit there and be like, oh, there's like absolutely no chance that there's not good everywhere all the time.
For sure.
Like being a pessimist I hate people like that. I hate interacting with people like that.
I agree.
Like,
I think that there's an extreme on both sides, because I also think that like toxic positivity is a real thing. There are people who are just too optimistic about everything and people who are too pessimistic. And I think you just got to find somewhere in between, ideally closer to the optimistic side.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in for this week of Spilled Milk. We'll catch you next week. Hope you enjoyed.